relive it all. William Byron, we talk about a dominating performance, leading 42 of 68 laps, first multi-time winner of the season. Our Daytona 500 champ does it again within the first 6 races, which is the second year in a row he's had multiple race wins within the first 6 weeks of the year.
What's he have to do to get the multiple pass? I mean, it's like you kind of wonder. I think he's going to be in the championship for I'd say that even if he hadn't won 2 races or won the Daytona 500, I think they were just that good and that solid last year. Was surprised it's the first time he's won from the pole. I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, his second road course win. I mean, he's, far away from catching the OG of the 24 road course wins, which is Jeff Gordon with 9. But you can see when Jeff talks about the 24 car, he's still like a proud daddy. We were at a Hendrick Motorsports function at Daytona, and Jeff was there, and they brought out the 4 Hendrick cars, for that celebration. And the flames that were on the 24, everybody just kind of gravitated to that because it brought back a childhood for a lot of people, but just all these feel-good memories of when Jeff was in his prime, and nobody was bigger for the sport than Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, I think about William Byron and about how, he had a bit of a slow start to his Cup career, you could say. And I think it's been hard for him to kind of shed that underdog feeling in a lot of people's hearts, but I think he's finally doing that. He's in a multiple year, as we talked about, where he is a winning driver. He is somebody we're always already talking about. Last year, he was the favorite for most, if not all of the year, pretty much leading into the playoffs. And then, this season, he's the first multiple winner, somebody that, Lee's saying she's already putting in her Final 4. So he's finally shedding that, underrated driver. I think he's starting to get, the chatter that he deserves.
Here's what Byron said after his second win of the season. Driver 24 saying he could not have done it alone.
I just feel like it reaffirms that the process that I'm doing during the week is correct. So if I do those things that I know are right and the people around me are there to help me do those things and keep the ship kind of going, I know that stuff works. And I have a great team, and I think that all that stuff clicks. So the sport's really hard. It's very easy to get caught up in all the moving parts and all the different challenges, but I just know that if I do, I guess, what is normal for me, I feel like it's good.
There's William Byron. I think making the championship 4 and watching Ryan Blaney win the title changed him forever as a driver. I think it turned the wick up in the belly of a man who really wants to do more. Really. I mean, it left a really bad taste in his mouth. And I talked to people in his camp and said, seeing Ryan Blaney, who did not have a better season than him by the numbers, really rubbed him the wrong way. And I think we're seeing him make changes in his personal life, his professional life. He talks about his work ethic. This kid is laser focused, hungry. I think he has the right crew chief. That pit crew was flawless. We are seeing William Byron 2.0 right now.
Well, and it's interesting to see the growth when we were over at Hendrick Motorsports when they were celebrating the Daytona 500 win, because if you all remember, we didn't have that post-Daytona 500 breakfast, so they had a luncheon later on at Daytona. And, William was talking about suffering from imposter syndrome. Do I really belong here? Do I really deserve to be in this position? And we talked about it earlier. He has not come through the ranks in the traditional manner. He came through, on iRacing. And, you mentioned Max Pappas, and I think we had him on Sirius just, talking about that relationship, and how it's grown and how he helped him develop some of the skill set that he needed on the track, because he walks in, and you mentioned Blaney, right? Blaney is a third-generation racer. He understands what it means to promote racetracks because of his grandfather, Lou, and Sharon Speedway. His father was a champion. His grandfather was a champion. But he came up a different way. He came up a racer. Byron didn't come up a racer. His father's like in, financial industry. And so it's like, it's a very different skill set. And I think you're right. It did burn his butt a little bit to see Blaney sit there and hoist the trophy, and kind of awkward with Blaney's sister at the time, and who is no more. And, you just kind of wonder, okay, what's What's the next step? How does this kid just kind of pull it all together and put in the work to get to that step he wants, which is ultimately the Cup championship?
It's interesting to me because I never thought of him as being somebody that wasn't putting in the effort or the work. Like, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't a time where I was like, oh man, William's got his priorities elsewhere. He needs to, fix things at home before he can. I always thought he was somebody who was working his absolute hardest. You just sometimes have to change what you're doing. You're still working just as hard. You just have to change up the
work
process.
harder, not smart, or work smarter, not harder.
He's like the B student that has to work harder, where he sees Larson. Larson's got so much natural talent. We see that all the time.
Right.
Larson, it makes it look so effortless. And then you have William Clyde, right? He's sitting there and you're thinking, okay, Chase, he does his thing, and he came up very similar to Blaney, right? And so, then William's different, and Bowman did all the testing, and so he's got a really innate sense as to what goes on. And then there's William, and it's like, it's a good problem to have 4 talented drivers like that, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I never doubted that William puts in the work, but it's kind of like we all know not everybody can be the smartest person in the room. And when you're not, and when you don't have the natural talent, you do have to work harder to achieve your goal.
Yeah. And I don't even necessarily know if it's a fact of like natural talent. It's just like the history, right? Like you said, coming up in a different way, not having run, all the short tracks and all of the things like, previously that Blaney, and having the history of growing up a third generation driver or second generation driver like Chase Elliott. But it's clear to me that he's doing something differently.
He said that.
Yeah, maybe more, just different.
Yeah.
And now something's starting to click. And that's got to be scary for everybody else, in the field, because it is clear that he is a championship favorite.
Good luck getting him to tell any of us what that is. Though.
I doubt he's going to reveal his, his secrets.
Which he shouldn't.
No, he should not.
Which he shouldn't.
He should
And
not.
Rudy was like, I hope this quiets the outside noise. I don't know what detractors there were out there the last few weeks to me. I thought this team was pretty solid, but like Rudy was trying to say, all right, for all you haters out there, you've become our motivators.
Well, it's funny because, when you're that person, even if it's just a small amount, say it's like a 5% amount of people out there that are giving negative feedback as compared to positive feedback, that 5% is always going to shine brighter to you than anything else, because the negative is what cuts the most, So maybe it's not a whole lot of detractors, maybe it's not enough for us, on the outside to see, but I'm sure when that happens, they see it, and that is a motivator. And so maybe y'all should keep doing it, because it's working. It's working to push them, to better limits for sure.
That's their whiteboard material,
Yeah.
right? Any great head coach is going to use that as motivation.